Welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Christopher Leandro Bartlett. Hello, Christopher.
Hello, Taylor.
Are you ready for Lent to start?
Oh my. Boy, has it been a minute, huh?
We accidentally gave up podcasting for Lent. It was not the intention, but our friend Sarah did give up working for Forte Catholic for Lent because she had a baby. So,
congratulations, Sarah.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we should start. Congratulations to her. Everybody's good. Everybody's happy. But I am drowning in work. So the thing that got cut the easiest was you.
all you lovely people.
No, just you.
Just me specifically, Chris.
You
Great.
specifically.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are. Happy Easter.
He is risen indeed.
We did our Christmas episode and our Easter episode back to back like real good Catholic podcasters.
Well, good. How's it been, man? I mean, aside from being insanely busy, are you liking it?
I am. This is weird because most of the time in my life, this isn't true. Most of the time in my adult life, when I've been incredibly busy, I've been unhappy. But most of my childhood, I was very busy and I was mostly happy because I was doing things
Sure.
that I liked, like youth group and school. And school sucked, but like church events and sports and all this kind of stuff, right? So I've always enjoyed being busy. And my mom reminded me of that because I'm like this. I think this is the busiest I've ever been. Like the whole goal of this was, take the new job, new responsibilities, we'll figure it all out. Sarah will take over the day-to-day of Forte Catholic, and then I'll have some time to kind of ease in before track season starts. Well, none of that happened. So I realized very quickly that even though I've been a part of this parish for a long time, I've never done this job before. So there has been a learning curve. And there's also just been we just need more people in our office. So I actually decided last week, we're hiring. If you want to come work in adult faith formation at St. Joseph's Parish in Bryan, Texas, your boss kind of sucks. But other than that, it's a pretty good job. It's a pretty good job. Great place to work. Great coworkers other than that other guy. So, pretty good.
Dude, congratulations. That's amazing that you're in a position to where you're building that office even bigger and more intentionally. I love it.
Well, not necessarily. I'm getting it back to the strength that it was. I replaced 2 people, and I was like, I can't do that. So I did it. Well, I did it for about 4 months, and I was like, I can't do this in longevity. I can do it in short sprints. I'm a sprinter. I can do 2 people's jobs. Well, heck, I've been doing 5 people's jobs for the last 4 months. But I was like, can we get it down to 3 or 4? That'd be great.
Yeah. Good.
So, yeah, it's very good. Since you and I last podcasted together, you have changed my life. There's one specific way that you have altered the course of my life. You and I did a retreat together, and my consumption of Italian sliced meats has gone through the roof since the last retreat that you and I did together.
Wasn't that the find? It's like the end of Saturday night, and we've got the munchies, and I'm just scrounging around the retreat center kitchen, and I find these delicacies, and I'm just like, well, may as well give it a shot. And we found some okay crackers, and we just kind of went over and
band name called it.
Yeah. And then we're playing some cards together, and we were just like, wait. This is delicious.
Yeah. I have purchased
you've doubled down
many Italian meats since then. I never really ate sliced Italian meat, and I went and bought a pound of sliced salami. I was like, slice it as thin as you possibly can. I'm eating this with crackers and cheese. And then I went to Sam's Club, and they have a 3-pack where it's prosciutto and salami and then some other Italian word that I think just means really good pig. I think that's probably what it means.
Sure.
It's just, I've eaten so much of it, and it's all thanks to you. You've changed my life.
Literally, that is what made Lent hard for you. You're like, oh, it's a Friday. I got to say goodbye to finely sliced Italian meats.
So I went to Sam's Club on a Thursday and ate a third of the Italian meats on Thursday and had to wait until Saturday to do the second one. And then Sunday I did the third one.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very funny. So congratulations. You have changed my life. I thank you from here until the end of time.
You're welcome, my friend. And welcome to the club. You now need to take lisinopril to lower your blood cholesterol.
Oh, I've been on that for many, many years.
So you were pre-gaming it. You were ready.
Absolutely. So, speaking of Lent, I was utterly tortured last night. One of the worst nights I've ever had in my entire life. But what has happened in the last couple of podcasts that you and I have done together is that I have just shared story after story after story, and we always keep having to delay until the next episode, your next thing, your big topic that you wanted to talk about. So we did that in November for December's episode. We did that in December for January's episode, and then I just didn't want to talk to you for the last 2 months or so. So I'm just going to leave my torture there. We'll come back to it eventually. Tell us about your life. What have you been doing for the last
Good.
2 months?
I will say that I presidented pretty hard in the last couple of months, and it was really hard. It was kind of the heaviest season I've gone through in regards to my role.
It's all that
Just
Italian meats.
It's all that, yeah, the heaviest season indeed. But it was difficult, and there was kind of a time where I felt like I was, and you probably experienced this in your role as well, where you're like, I think I have a mission, but right now I just have a firefighter hat, and there's another fire to put out, and just kind of dealing with some of those things. And it wasn't discouraging. It was just kind of draining a little bit. And then I applied for a grant, and the grant is like, tell us about a blaze and how you guys are doing this. What's your vision here? And what's this? And I'm answering the questions, and I'm like, hey, it was almost like I got reintroduced to myself. Hey, we are doing some pretty cool things. Hey, this is pretty cool. And ever since that kind of process came into my arena, I was able to be excited about the mission that we're on. And so I had a reinvigoration probably about 3 weeks ago in my job. And there's still a couple of times where I have to put on that firefighter hat and go put out a fire. But for the most part, I'm trying to stay focused on kind of the bigger picture items, which is my role, and inviting people into that. And so work wise, it's been great. My girls, my second and third, they're playing soccer, and just going out and watching them and sitting out on the soccer field. And you experience this because the track has a smell to it, right? When you go out there to coach, and it brings you back. And there's something about like, oh, I can literally smell that it's track season. I can smell that it's soccer, and it's just, I don't know. It just being in nature, it's been really good. A lot of fun watching my kiddos play soccer and sports like that. So those have been the things that have been most occupying my time. I'm moving my mom down the week after Easter, so probably next week or the week of this. Whenever you're listening, I might be in Colorado moving my mom down, and that's kind of a big thing. But it's gonna be so good for her to come on down and live with us, and not live with us, but near us. She's in the same neighborhood, and so there's a lot going on, but none of it's bad. It's all kind of exciting and moving. But earlier in the year, it was pretty bad.
Moving.
There you go. So that's me in a nutshell. But I mean, to zoom in a little bit more, I've got a kid that I would say might be feral. He was going through some heavy realities. He must have overheard about one of the mini wars that are going on, and he's like, Dad, I don't want to die, and I don't want to go to heaven just yet. Because if I'm in heaven, will I get to climb trees? Will I get to play with these rocks? Will I get to, sharpen sticks with knives? And he was worried that heaven would take away his opportunity of all this boyhood, or that death would take away this opportunity of boyhood. And he was like in tears talking about how much he loved his childhood. And it was so good. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that my son loves his childhood. And then yesterday I'm out in the front yard, and they had built a little fort with some blankets and some chairs and some trees and some sticks, and it smells like fire. So I go and I'm like, hey, are you guys burning something? And sure enough, they had taken 2 tin cans and made a hole in one of them, and filled water in the upper can. And they were trying to boil water by setting sticks on fire and shoving it under the can. I'm like, you guys cannot play with fire. So their boyhood got in their way a little bit. And so they got in trouble, but
their boyhood was about to send them to heaven.
Right then I'm like, I thought you said you didn't want to die, buddy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the whole street. So they learned some lessons, but these are the things that I'm having to correct my kids on. It's not like, hey, you got to quit, watching the rated R movies, or, all these other things. I'm sure some of those things are going to be coming down the pipeline, but for now, my son was trying to organically boil a tin can full of water. And yes, I'm mad that he did play with fire without permission, but I'm not I'm actually he's exploring in kind of a rather healthy way. And I can't help but wonder if sometimes God looks at us like that and sometimes we feel really guilty or we feel like we got away with it. But God's like, I know you're just trying to figure things out. Could you just do it in my domain or in my grace or in my giftingness? Because I did. I pulled my son aside and said, I trust you to play with fire so long as you ask first and there's some supervision. Like nothing you did was wrong except for the fact that you were doing it in hiding. And sometimes I feel like my own life is like, no, I'm going to steer and take the wheel and go on my own. And God's like, okay, you ended up at the wrong spot, but I'm glad that you were driving. I trust you to steer and drive a little bit. Could you just follow my directions? And I'm like, okay. So that's my life in a nutshell. That's kind of the quick updates.
That's very fun. I like that. I talking. Yeah, I have a lot of things that I probably won't say about your son because he's tiny.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It cut your theme there. That was very fun because I liked how you were like, here's a story and here's how it's about God because that's how much we planned this episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how beautiful I look. My kids.
Here's my talk notes.
Oh, there you go. My kids unplugged my my fancy, my $1,200 camera with a $500 lens that connects to this very expensive computer. They unplugged the batteries to charge their phone, so I'm using this stupid camera. So that's very fun.
We're literally like you're sitting literally less than 2 feet away from where you normally sit, and you look homeless compared to our normal podcasting.
Yeah, it's really quite funny. But I'll connect to something you said, and then I'll transition into one of the things that I've been up to. So you were talking about how God sees us, right? And there's this quote from my notes over the last 2 months that I keep in my phone. That was kind of a fun thing. Usually, when the show was weekly, it was like every week I'm just reflecting on my week, and that was that week's show. And now it's like, oh, I'm going back and reflecting for a month, and now I'm going back to January 15th and being like, what have I thought about and done since then? So
Yep.
there's some connection to your story and also some connection to what you're seeing on this stupid camera that you don't typically see. So and if you're just listening on the audio podcast, congratulations. It's the best choice you've made in a while because you don't have to look at me or my living room. So, but you were talking about how God sees us. And I had this note in my phone that I had forgotten about because it had been so long since I wrote it. And I probably needed to hear it again. And maybe your son needs to hear it. Sometimes we avoid God because I am holding a grudge against myself that he is not holding against me. I was like, that's pretty good, right? Where it's like, we sin, and the whole thing with confession. We just had another parish penance service, which is hilarious because on the last episode you and I did together, we talked about the Advent one, and I just did the Lent one. So we did it again. Go see that episode for how I feel about it. But I was talking about it with some people who went to confession for the first time because we're in the process of them receiving their sacraments. Here this weekend, next weekend, and over the course of the Easter season. And they were like, "Well, I went to confession, but like I still feel bad." And we were trying to connect and say like there are still, because we in our talks about confession, there are like the real repercussions. If I steal $10 from Chris, I need to go to confession, confess my sins, but I also need to return the $10 to Chris. Like there still are ramifications, but a lot of times because there are still those ramifications, we still feel guilty about it, right? Where like maybe there should be some until I give you your $10 back. But even like our sins against God, the sins that we commit on our own, the sins that we commit in secret, the sins that we commit that don't we don't think affect anybody. It's just like I'm beating myself up, and yet he's like, it's absolved. It's been gone for a while. Like, why are you still like? I feel like I hold a grudge against myself quite a bit, and so that was a refreshing thought for me to hear 2 months ago and 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and the role of guilt and shame pre-confession is convicting. Like Saint Ignatius is talking about, like we should detest our sins, and our sins should convict us like a convict, like you're guilty. But after confession, like there might be a little bit of guilt that's present, but I think it should be mostly washed away, and you're in that kind of restitution mode to be like, yeah, I still got to get Chris that $10. But I think sometimes let me say it for me. I have found myself that my relationship with God has been built in seasons of my life solely around the last time I went to confession to the next time I need to go to confession. And actually that period when I'm like, I'm doing okay. I don't need to go to confession. I don't rely on God quite as much.
Mhm.
And so it's crazy because it's exactly what you're saying. It's like I'm beating myself up with hands that God is like, stop. They're not my fists. Why are you saying that I'm beating you up? You're beating yourself up. It's
Stop
crazy.
hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. But he's serious.
Yeah, he's dead serious. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, another random thought that I had. Let's connect to the house. So, um, I mentioned that a big part of taking this job at the church is that I now have more funds, and one of the things that we dug ourselves into a financial hole because we weren't making enough money to do things like send our kids to Catholic school and things like feed them and that live in a house, those sorts of things. So, um,
Classic tension. Classic.
yeah, exactly. Um, so we've been digging ourselves out of that hole, and it's actually been really fun. Like it's actually really fun to like pay down that thing, pay off that thing. It's been really kind of cool. But one of the other things that we haven't been able to do is actually being showcased right now. And some of it actually looks pretty good. Some of it doesn't look good. So when we tried to sell our house about a year and a half ago, people came and were like, it needs too much work. And we're like, understood. So we took it off the market. Right. So now every project except for one has been completed and paid for. There is
Wow.
one final project before we are able to put this house on the market, and that is the floors that you are currently seeing. We are currently sitting in the living room that people who listen to the show not at the beginning, 8-9 years ago, will remember that this room flooded during a hurricane, which sounds like I'm podcasting from where I grew up, 10 minutes from the coast. Nope. 2.5 hours in, and it was just because our house flooded very, very easily. So this room was completely filled with water. So we had to rip out all of the wood that became some kind of weird mush by the time we got home because we were out of town. And then the flooring in like our living room and kitchen, like it's there, it's just old and it needs to be redone, right? So the last, or I'm sorry, there are two more: the flooring and then the AC. The AC is working. We've gotten a bunch of work done to fix all that stuff, but we know that it will not pass inspection. So we have two large projects left, and the flooring is getting done probably in the next couple of months because we're paying down things and saving up for these big projects like new house and last little things for this house. So one of the things that you can see, Chris, and those of you who are watching on YouTube, you see these blinds here?
Yep.
The blinds that used to be there were bought like 9 years after the resurrection and put in about 9 years after the resurrection. They've been here since we moved in. It was a historical landmark, not the house, just the blinds. The blinds were a historical landmark. Actually, for a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, it's a Texas historical landmark. No, this was the country of Spain. Back when Spain owned the land of Texas, it was a historical landmark.
And that's why they keep the blinds behind glass, not because that's their function, but because it's so historical that they don't want people like breathing on them or anything. They just crumble.
Exactly. They're just gone. So every single one in the house has been replaced. I did them all myself. I figured it out. It took me far too long to figure out how to do the first two. And then the rest of them, I was like a man. I was just going through, drilling holes, getting everything done. I did it. I did the last 7 so fast. And if I put them on a video, I'd look like a handyman. If anybody saw those first 2, they're like, is that a small, feeble woman? We're not quite sure.
How many thumbs does this guy have? He seems to be all thumbs. Yeah.
My thumbs actually don't work correctly. It's actually a problem, but I'm showing you if you're watching on video. But
if you hitchhiked, they take you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at that bend in your thumb.
I know, it's wild. So it's
a
hard to
U-turn.
like push against things. So all the blinds have been done. There's a fan right above me. It is so. Many years ago, we did the fans that were absolutely necessary, and then a few years later, we had the money to do like the next room, like our bedroom was necessary, kids' rooms, whatever. We did that eventually, but then like a few months ago, we moved the kids into a different kids' room, and like the girls' room didn't have a working fan, and we're moving into the the hot
Summer
season in Texas,
Yeah.
so all the fans are done. The fridge. So this was crazy, dude. So I want you to imagine this and how insane it made me, and also proving how dumb I am with house stuff. I'm getting a lot better. I have done a lot of projects around the house, but I'm getting better, but still stupid. So the flooding in this room, there were two spots, essentially that corner and that corner. Also, right behind that is the old office where we first started recording at home. My little cubicle that was like my prison cell. That room that we used to record this podcast from also used to flood. And then also in our kitchen right behind our fridge. Well, many years ago, we got some drainage put in right along the outside of the house of this room. Completely solved the flooding in this room. Never flooded once ever again. But it still flooded behind the fridge and in the little prison cell. And then so we had them come back out for a nominal fee. They added another one to the system they had already created, and that solved the third problem. Still flooding during heavy rain behind the fridge. So we had them come out again. And when they came out again was when they hit the gas line and our house almost blew up. And then a few days later, it rained and water still came in under the fridge. And then a few days later, it didn't rain and water was coming in under the fridge. And I go, wait a second, that's new. So for the first time ever, I pulled the fridge back and saw these two wires just spewing water. And I go, you've got to be kidding me. It's been the fridge this entire time. So
you almost blew up your house.
Almost blew up my house, spent hundreds of dollars extra because if the first three were outside and you needed more draining, doesn't it make sense that the one that's 12 feet away from that would also be that?
Yeah.
That would just make sense. No, of course not. Why would it be that? Why would it be
Ridiculous.
that? So we paid hundreds of dollars for that to come be fixed. I got all new outdoor lights that are motion detectors. I've got the water piping in front of our house exploded again. Somebody had to come and fix that. That's another few $100s. We have just been throwing money at things. But the blessing is, like, we have the money for it now. Like, we could not have afforded any of this before the job.
Here's why this is a bad idea. And I just want to give you a heads up. Do you remember that snake that was living just like above your front door?
Yeah, right there, right above where my head is currently. Yep.
Yeah. It's because your house looked like a shack. Now he's like, no, I think I'm moving in. He's ready to move in now because you've made it look so nice. And he's like, come on, kids. And you're cooked. In the middle of the night, you're going to get anacondaed, and that'll be the end of Taylor. And he'll take on and he'll slither around and try and work at St. Joe's for a little bit until he gets caught. And that'll be that.
He's just walking around in a tailor suit. It's just
like he made it until St. Patrick's Day, and then he got let out of the church. That was it.
No, I went and got some wire mesh, and I used my fancy nail gun, and I put wire mesh into his little hidey hole, and the birds can no longer live in there, which means no one wants to eat them. So they went back to the tree where they belong.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been like encouraging to make progress. Like a lot of my work previously, and a lot of so much of our work in ministry is stories or people saying, oh, I had this good experience, or like you see that somebody is clearly moved because of tears or because they're just like very deep in prayer or something like that. When it was podcast, it was like, oh, it's numbers, but it's like I don't physically see somebody watching a podcast. That'd be weird, right? Like I don't. But so like to walk around the house and see, every time I walk into a new room, I see these new blinds. Every time I walk into a new room, I see the new fans. Every time I walk into our kitchen, I see that like it's not flooding. I have these new runner lights under the bottom of the cabinets. Like the house is a much nicer place to live. And so there's something about the tangibleness of like seeing the progress and seeing the work that we typically don't get in the spiritual life that has been encouraging.
Yeah, and it also is an affirmation of the ministry. Like those runner lights, that dry kitchen floor, it's the weirdest thing to say. That's a fruit of your labor in ministry. And it shows also that there's a value that's being recognized. Like you have had such a long career in ministry, and there's a season and even a pattern in both ministry leaders, but also parishes, to where it's like yeah, but we're a ministry, so we just have to have crappy things. Oh, I can't put my kids in soccer. And I had a priest tell me that maybe you shouldn't have your kids in soccer because you're in ministry. Like it's rec league soccer, it's $120, and I can't. You're right, I can't do it, and it's $120 for the season. I'm just asking you to give me a tiny raise so I can be able to do things like this with my kids.
Give me
Too
what you
bad.
made for the last funeral this morning, and we'll
Right,
be okay.
exactly. Yeah, and so there was a real tension there, and we used to poo poo on it. But I do see that there's a number of ministry leaders that have advocated or worked or been able to make things happen to where there's a lot of neat fruits to ministry as well. And rare is it that you get to see the harvest, but you're living in a season of harvest right now, and that's I think God delights in that.
I sure am. I'm sure delighting in it. And another ministry connection piece that's been pretty cool is um, because we have like the new insurance. Essentially, we're like the beginning of the year was tough financially, but because we had this new money coming in, it wasn't a huge deal, but it still was kind of a huge deal. So essentially, we were going to hit like we're going to pay off a large debt by the end of February. And I'm here to tell you that it is not done yet. It's been delayed because we had $6,600 in medical expenses in the first 5 weeks of the year. That is
Holy
our
cow.
family deductible. And by the end of the first week of February, I had spent $6,600 on medical expenses. My son had ear surgery and he can hear now, which is great because he doesn't have the excuse of now we just know he's being a teenager
Right.
whenever he says he can't hear.
Yeah.
I was like, we paid good money for you to hear, and I have a test proving that you can hear better than you used to. So, and then I've had like my allergy shots and physical therapy, and I've gotten to go to chiropractor. Now that I've hit my deductible, I'm getting all kind of stuff done, including my torture from last night, which we will get to. But one of the other fruits of ministry is so essentially, once I paid off that one large debt, we were going to do two things. One, do the flooring in this house.
Yep.
And I was going to buy myself a gift because I have not bought myself anything nice since I started the new job. It's been like work, like I'm the fat, chubby, bald Rihanna. So at the end of that time, we were going to buy the flooring, and I was going to buy a Traeger smoker. A gift, fancy gift for myself. I haven't bought myself something nice in a very, very long time because we've been on survival mode for so long.
Right.
And I've been, like I've shared on here, I've been getting very into cooking, and this is like my next thing. It was going to be a gift to myself. But
when you cook the meat and the kids are like, that looks delicious, Dad, you're like, no, go eat mac and cheese. This was my gift to me.
yeah, exactly.
As you eat 14 pounds of amazing brisket
exactly.
or whatever.
That's Italian meats, Italian sliced meat. So
that's it.
I've been enjoying cooking, and I actually really enjoy feeding people. It's really brings me a lot of joy to feed people and also have them be like, this is good. I'm like, I know, like, it's not just somebody giving you lip service. It's like, no, like my mouth is watering when you say this is good. Like, it is very good. Well, because we are $6,600 behind, I didn't get to buy my Traeger. So, but it was this weird thing where it's like, I promised myself that I would not spend this extra money until I had paid off this debt. And here I am thinking this was the day I was going to do it. Now I know it's going to be another 2 months or so. So I just put out on Facebook and Instagram, does anybody have a smoker that they are no longer using or that they don't use? Thinking one of two things were going to happen. Like, I was asking for somebody here in town. One of two things were going to happen. Either somebody upgraded recently, because I have a lot of friends with good money. Like maybe they upgraded from the old model to the new model. Or a guy got given one for Father's Day, Christmas, birthday, and like
never
doesn't use it, right? So I'm just like, look, can I have it or can I get it off you for cheap? Was essentially what the request was.
Yeah.
Nobody locally responded. And then my friend in ministry, who you might know also, Mr. Brian Lennox, one of the longest tenured ministry people in the Diocese of Galveston, Houston.
St. Faustina's,
Yes, longtime friend of mine. He says, he reaches out. And literally the thing that I thought was going to happen, he's like, I just upgraded because he cooks for large families. But he's like, I have this $1,100 grill that I'm not using anymore. Would you like to come get it? And he lives about an hour and a half away from me. But he sent me that. I posted it Friday. he sent me a message Saturday morning saying, if you want to come get it, it's an hour and a half, so hour and a half there, hour and a half back. But if you want to come get it, Chris, I was bringing my kids to Houston that day to drop my kids off for spring break. So I only had to add about 15 minutes to my total drive.
Oh my gosh. And you now have the space because all the kids just left with all their stuff.
Exactly. So if you could picture the big green egg, their competitor is just a big red egg. That's what I have. So
okay.
And it's huge. It's made of ceramic. Like you cannot break it. So me and Brian are picking up this thing that weighs hundreds of pounds. We're putting it in the front seat where my wife had been sitting. She sat in the back the whole time because now prime of place in my car. We're raking. Kids are usually in the back, but once I get a smoker, honey's going to the back. So
sorry, sweetheart. Yep.
We like it. It physically didn't fit in the back seat, and if we put it in the far back of the SUV, it would have rolled over and cracked. And if those eggs crack, it's over. It's over. $1,100 done. Cooked. I like what you did there. Good. So I brought it home, got it set up, figured it out. I have cooked some of the most amazing food in the last few weeks, and I could not be happier. I could not be happier because the Lord provided through my friend Brian in a way that I didn't intend, in the same way that I didn't intend to spend $6,600 on medical expenses, but I got what I was looking for at the time that I got it, just not in the way that I planned, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
That is great. And it's going to be good for me eventually because I pop in town about once a quarter and you and I get to spend some time together. I think only once or twice we've had dinner at your house. Usually we meet out somewhere. I think that's going to flip. I think we're only going to go out maybe once a year, and the rest of the time I'm just going to be like, get something dead and put it in the smoker. Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing that was just an absolute gift, another thing I was going to buy eventually, is I wanted a meat freezer because we have a very small freezer. The one that used to cry until about a week ago. It's no longer crying. It also doesn't fit many large animals. So I was like, another thing, it was further down the totem pole in wish list. Like number one was, flooring and Traeger or pay off debt, flooring, Traeger. Those were the top three things in the order of like 50,000 things that I want to happen financially. Right. Well, the church was just donated this new double wide deep freeze. And so there were two older deep freezes in there. And they were like, I was in a meeting and they were like, well, what are we going to use these for? They're like, well, we have a place for one of them, but not for the other. And I was like, raise my hand. Can I make it disappear? And they were like, as long as it's gone by the end of the week. I was like, sweet. So done. I have a deep freezer that was manufactured in 2023. Like it's practically brand new and I got it for free. And it is completely, I went to the meat market and just filled the thing up. And so whenever you come to, I have hosted so much company. We'll move to that soon. It's been so busy and so good, man. Like I have been working 13 hours a day and hosting people at my house constantly. And it's been really, really good where it's deep freeze. So the next time you're coming to town, you got to tell me 3 days in advance. I'll unfreeze it over one day and then I will start cooking it 2 days before you arrive. Yeah. And then it will be ready the minute that you that you get here. So
now I know you made your wife move to the back seat for the red grill. It is the deep freeze on her side of the bed. Is that how it works hierarchically? And she's sleeping in the garage now, or did you put it in the garage?
It is in the old what did I call it earlier? The little prison cell. It's in the prison cell.
Oh wow, I'm surprised it fits. Wow.
Yeah, it fits in there. But to your point, no, she still gets to sleep in the room every now and then. But I do go and caress and give the deep freeze a kiss before I go to bed.
Good night, deep freeze.
So we have hosted some a lot of people have just sporadically come and shown up at our house and they spend the night and they hang out and it's been really, really good. The most out of the blue one was for a week. I hosted a monk at my house. There was a monk that lived with us for Monday through Friday. He was here he's the recruiter for his order. So, you typically think monk, they're not they're not cloistered completely, but they are pretty much. Like most of them stay at their compound. This is the monk that I met at Catholic Family Land a few years ago.
Yep.
I went and visited their monastery. We did an episode about that a couple of years ago. Same monk, same. So, but he came to come recruit for his order. So he like that's his job in the order. So he gets out a little bit more than most of the rest of them do. But he was
Sure.
coming to recruit at St. Mary's for the first time. The largest Catholic college center in the nation. And he was like, "Hey, can I come stay with you?" So he did. I went and picked him up at the airport. When I picked him up, he's dressed as a monk and he's sitting next to somebody else that looks wild. And it was like the what was it? Eastern Orthodox archbishop of somewhere in the Central Europe. They just met up and sat with each other outside of the airport. It was just a wild, like, I've been living a strange life that's been exhilarating for the last few months.
Amazing.
But he came and stayed with us, and this is we were kind of hitting on this theme earlier, and I think we'll dive a little bit more into it here. I think for a long time working in ministry, especially at my time during Ablaze, like I was just surrounded by so many holy people that I felt unholy constantly. Like, and I think there is some truth to that, but also just like, I'm just a lot different. I'm a lot more brash. I'm a lot louder. I'm a lot more straight to the point than what I assumed a lot of holy people are.
But you start to get imposter syndrome and like, where do I fit into this whole mission? Yeah.
Or just like, I'm just so different than these very, very holy people, then I must be wrong, right? But I think as I've gotten older, and then I've taken this job, and like you talked earlier about having to do some presidential things. I'm not the president, but I've had to do have some pretty tough conversations, do some pretty tough things in the first few months.
Yeah.
Of
When your pastor's not around, a lot of people look to you.
Right. So there's been a lot of tough conversations, these sorts of things, and big decisions, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like if I was trying to be what I thought was the holy person in ministry 5 to 8 to 10 years ago, I'm just being me now. I'm trying to be holy, but I'm just being me. And I'm like, this is who I am. And we had this, it was interesting. We had a leadership team meeting, and at the leadership team, when you're the new guy on the leadership team, you're just going to be respectful. Whenever you're the new guy anywhere, I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to defer to you guys. You know what you're doing. I'm still kind of figuring out. We had this leadership team meeting of just like, it was essentially the Patrick Lencioni, how to work together as a team, how to lead a parish well kind of thing. And essentially it was like, there are a lot of people who are that quiet and timid. There are people who love to sit in a room and think about things. They're planners. There are people who are behind the scenes people. And then there are people who are drivers. And I'm like, I'm a driver. And like, it's time to drive. Like, get in the car and we're going, right? And it was this weird thing because there's like this whole quadrant that we don't have to get into now. We might go more in depth another time. But essentially it was like, on one side and the other, when it comes to your leadership style, do you care more? Not that one means you don't care about the other one. Do you care more about the task being accomplished or people? And I'm task oriented, where like, we're going to get this done, and get in the car, losers. We're getting in and we're going to do this job together. And then once we're doing the task or done with the task, then I'll worry about the people. Right.
Right. Because everyone else is like, no, not everyone. Others are like, I'm more worried about the harmony.
Right.
And you're like, no, we are going to get it done. There's the harmony. We. Not me, we. There's the harmony. And they're like, no, we got to focus. Yeah. It is. There is a tension.
And like things that drive me nuts where it's just like, oh, I was doing a physical task that needed to get done for this ministry event to go well. And then people walked in. So I started talking to the people. And then Father walked in. And he's like, why aren't the stuff set up? And he's like, guys, like we got to do the task, man. We got to do the task. And then the other side of the quadrant was tell or ask. If I need you, Chris, to do something, am I going to tell you to do it? Or am I going to ask, hey, Chris, do you think it would be a good idea if we podcasted today? Instead of like, hey, I'm just being very clear. I have an hour and a half to podcast today. Can we make this work? If not, we're not doing it. Like
that's you.
That's me, right?
Yep.
It's because for me, it's like, it's task, and it's just like, it just is what it is. Like, it's not about my feelings, not about your feelings. I have an hour and a half today. I have an hour tomorrow. I have 30 minutes on Thursday. If that doesn't work, then we're not doing it. And it's not like I'm mad at you. I just like, this is a reality situation. Can we do this, right? And so I'm on a team where I am in the top right quadrant of tell and task. and everybody else on the team is in the bottom left, the exact opposite of me.
Sure.
So they were, I was being timid, they were being timid. They're just like, no, like it's time for me to be brash and to be to the point and to worry about the task. And it was like appreciated, which I'm always worried in those situations that like, oh, I'm going to offend somebody. I'm going to step on toes. And it's just like, if we're all on the same page, we understand that like, ultimately I care about you and I care about this parish, then we'll be good. Right. So, um, going back to the monk, it was a really fascinating thing because I think if he would have come to stay with us 5 to 10 years ago, I would have felt like a terrible person all week. I would have felt horrendous because this dude. What's the number one things that monks do?
Pray.
They pray all the time, just simply all the time. So I was in the middle of a very busy week. Ministry, kids, track, my kids' track, my other kids' activity. Like we just have so much going on. And I'm like dropping him off and picking him up. Like I'm being chauffeur for my kids and this monk. It's just a lot is going on. And so about once a day, he would invite me into prayer a couple of times. And then once a day I would say yes. Not because I chose one time a day, but it's like in the morning, it's like I would drop him off. He has to do a holy hour every day. He has to do 7 different liturgy hours every day. He has to do mass every day. He has to do all this stuff every day. And he's like, I'm doing mass. And I'm like, I have a meeting. He's like, I'm doing adoration. I was like, I will bring you to church and drop you off. And I will go have another meeting with Father because this is my one time a week with him. Right. I'm like, you get to go spend time with your boss every day. I got to go talk to mine. I get an hour and a half with him a week, but we got to celebrate mass in our house with not everybody, but me, my wife, and my 2 daughters because my son was busy. Like it was just, we got to celebrate mass in the house. We got to pray liturgy hours together with him. He gave us a blessing every night before we went to sleep. But like, I did not feel any guilt at all because it was this very interesting thing. Like he was being so honoring and affirmative of my fatherhood. And I was helping him serve in his fatherhood. And so it was just this like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Those are vastly different things. And yet we're still both accomplishing things for the kingdom and fulfilling our vocations. And it just led like that guilt that we were talking about earlier. It was like I'd been holding this guilt of like, not that my sin was wrong, but that I was wrong, that I was built wrong, that I wasn't built to be holy. And it was just like, no, that's BS. I am doing, do I still sin? Do I still fall? Yes. But am I doing good overall? Also, yes. I don't need to be a monk to be holy.
Right. And I think say it louder for the people in the back. Like if you are a mom or a dad and you're like, you're going to get the oil changed so that you have a vehicle so that you can take your kids to school, not even take your kids to church, take your kids to school. Like that is a holy function. That function is a holy function. And I know that there's people that are like, yeah, but the monk is praying for 4 hours a day. How many hours a day are you praying? 0.3. I'm praying for 25 minutes a day. But how many hours is that monk raising disciples, right? Well, at least 4 hours a day, right? Prayers edifying for everyone. But there's something about how can you eat the fruit that is in the season of life that you're in right now. And Taylor, 20 years from now, when your kids are all like adulting, you might find yourself on a retreat where you're praying for 6 hours a day. Take that, monk. That's 6 hours a day. But right now, the season that you're in, not
once
just
in my life, I do what he does every day.
yeah. And you call it a retreat, and then you go give parish missions on that. Like there was this one time where I prayed a lot more, But at the end of the day, I think we have to give ourselves permission to be dynamically, ordinarily Catholic. Not dynamically, radically Catholic or whatever. And it's like changing a diaper can be a prayer. Replacing blinds, like that's a blessing to your family. That's making your domestic church, like you decorated your domestic church. Your domestic church is
I
under
put in stained
construction.
glass windows. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, no, but you put in so there's all this thing. And sometimes we think unless you're doing the best and everyone's like, and prayer has to be the best. It's like, yeah, but someone's got to cook the food and someone's got to fix this leak. Like it's slippery around the fridge. What's going on here? Like that is good, holy domestic work. And it's neat that Father got to see you in that mode and you got to see Father or Monkey in his mode. I don't know if he's a priest or just a brother. So
He was called that multiple times. Yes, he was called monkey a few
monkey.
times.
Yeah.
Some of the high school students who are not super into the faith are like, a monkey is coming to speak with us on Tuesday.
Nice.
Yep. Very, very good. Okay. So this past week was the Passion narrative, and I was just affirming myself, and now I will tell you how far away from Jesus I am. Every time that we do the Passion narrative, which is Palm Sunday and Good Friday, my feet hurt. But also, whenever I'm listening to what's going on, I try to put myself in Jesus's sandals and wonder what I would do in that situation. And there is literally only one time in the Passion narrative that I would do exactly what Jesus did. Every other time I would do something differently. Can you guess the one time I would do exactly what Jesus did in the Passion narrative?
I think when he was slightly sarcastic to Pilate, is like, it's you who say that I am.
And then
he's quiet, which is not what you did. So
no, he's not quiet. He keeps talking. You are exactly right. You pegged the moment. You
take it from there.
So he says, you say that I am, which is sarcastic. And then he just goes for it. He's like, soon you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Father. And then, then they rend their garments. And they're like, look, the thing that we've been trying to trip him up to say for 3 years, he just said out loud in front of everybody. He's like, I'm him. Like, legitimate. Like, it was the first I'm him before I'm him became slang 3 years ago. It's just like, I am he. Capital H, lowercase e. Like, he just says it, right? And so I go, and then he is quiet for the rest of the time, which is what everybody knows that's not what I would do. But there are so many times whenever he's like on the cross where if I was Jesus, I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. If I was Jesus being crucified and they're like, he saved others, he would save himself. The worst version or he can't save himself. The worst version of me.
Just hold on for just a minute. Like, for those who are watching and listening, I just want to say, Taylor could probably lift a bus. Like, Taylor is just a thick, athletic dude. If you were Jesus, Simon of Cyrene would come along beside you and say, hey, could you also carry this? You look like you can handle the cross and also these items. So
they would crucify
I like picturing it.
And the cross would fall down. They'd have to go get a thicker cross.
A thicker cross. Yeah. An iron cross. Yeah. Anyway, so if you were Jesus, I apologize. I'm just loving the mental visual.
So if there's the worst version of me. You have your eyes closed, picturing fat Jesus is hilarious. Fat, bald Jesus, white. Most people picture Tom Brady. Now you're picturing me. That's awesome. So like, he's on the cross and like, oh, he saved others. He can't even save himself. The worst version of me would just do a quick, like, disappear off the cross, appear right in front of them, and then appear immediately back on the cross.
Flick him in the air, and then go back on the cross.
Just like, that's the worst version of me. The best and holy version of me, if I'm really trying to be like Jesus, obviously I know what he did. He said nothing and did nothing. But I would look at them and be like, hey, your daughter that's been sick for 3 months, she's healed. Go home and check.
Oh, wow.
Like, every time that they're saying something just utterly ridiculous against him, if I was him, if I was me, I'd be snarky. If I'm me trying to be him, I'm thinking of like another holy way to do it. So just the quiet suffering is really, really difficult for me. And that leads me to my torture yesterday evening. And what's really ironic about my torture yesterday evening is that I scheduled it, but I didn't know fully what it was going to be. And even more ironically, I was listening to a book while mowing the lawn yesterday before I went to my scheduled torture. And I was listening to the story of a man being tortured and how he had been tortured for so long that essentially he just became a completely different man. He was weak. He forgot who he was. He didn't want any good things for himself because he had just been beaten and tortured by this other person for so long. And I'm sitting there mowing the lawn being like, I would never get this weak if another man tortured me. I just never would. And then we're in Holy Week, so I'm like connecting this book that I'm reading or being read to me in Audible while I'm mowing the lawn, and I'm suffering a little bit mowing the lawn because I am fat and it's also allergy season, and I'm just kicking up all the things I'm allergic to.
Yes, yep.
So I'm suffering slightly, but not being tortured, right? And I'm like, I would never just be this weak when it came to torture. And I've talked to people in my life who were in the military, who were in like covert ops. I've asked them, I was like, I don't understand waterboarding. Like, it doesn't seem that bad. And they look at me and they're like, you're the dumbest person I've ever talked to. Like, they're just like, it's.
But I'm the same way. I'm like, I can hold my breath for like 2 minutes. Like, what's the big deal?
And they're just like it's the worst thing. Like, it's not crucifixion because you don't die, but like it feels like worse. Like it. So there's just something to just how your brain plays tricks on you. So a month ago, I did an at-home sleep study where I put this little thing on my finger and I connected to an app on my phone, and I went to sleep. And I got a phone call like a few days later. They're like, you have severe sleep apnea. Like, you're actively dying every time you go to bed. And I'm like, cool. So they're like, what's next? And they're like, well, 5 weeks from now, we can schedule you for a in-office sleep study, like an in-hospital sleep study. So for 5 weeks, I'm like, every time I go to bed, I'm like, is this it? Like, am I dead? Just completely ruined me. Like, for like a week, I was freaking out. And then life gets busy. I kind of forget about it until I go to sleep every night. And I kind of like say my last little prayer just in case, right? Well, I go to this sleep study and they gave me some idea. They're like, hey, get here at this time. This is what you'll do. Make sure you shower before it. They gave me all the rules. They did not tell me at all what they were going to do. Have you ever done an at-hospital sleep study, or do you have any idea what they do to you?
Zero idea.
Boy. I woke, okay, I don't even know how to start this. I was going to bed, and the thing for sleep apnea, you probably know this answer. What is the answer that they give you if you have sleep apnea? What is the thing that they give you to take home?
A CPAP.
A CPAP machine, right? And I've heard stories. One of our favorite mutual comedians used to be a guest on the show quite a bit, Aaron Weber. He talks about his all the time on his podcast, and Brian Bates, he has one too. They're always talking about it, and it's like this silly thing. I almost texted Aaron at 5:30 this morning when I got out of the sleep study, like an all caps angry text message. So I'm like, you guys made this sound so much fun. You just made it sound like a little nuisance that you all get to laugh about. It's torture. It's torture. And here I was yesterday saying, if a man ever tortured me, I'd never become weak. I was trying to go to bed. They strap you up. They put the CPAP in your nose, which is just, they're pumping air into this thing in your nostrils. And as I'm laying there, I get strapped up to all these nodes. I have like 17 different nodes on my head. I have them in my beard on my chest. I have them by my eyes. I have them on my shoulders. I have them on my legs. I have two essentially seat belts strapped around the skinny part of my belly and the fat part of my belly. Yeah. It's horrendous. And they're like, okay, good night. Have a good time. And before you go to sleep, you have to like get used to the CPAP. And they're like, don't breathe through your mouth, only breathe through your nose. And Chris, they're not giving me enough air. I have large lungs. They're not giving me enough air. I cannot breathe. I do not. And there's this like mental thing where when you can't breathe, when's the last time you couldn't breathe? Like for me, it was when I was a child. I was being kind of bullied and held under. There was a raft, and there was these kids on the raft that were like making sure that I could not get out of the water. That's the last time that I actively couldn't breathe for a long time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't breathe for quite a while. And they're like, try to relax, go to sleep. So finally, like I end up saying, because they could hear everything that you say. And I finally just say like, guys, like I can't. You got to get, because they're like, we'll give you more air progressively once you fall asleep. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. Because if you don't give me more air, like I'm not going to fall asleep. Like I can't breathe. You think I'm just going to be able to relax and go to sleep when I'm like, like that's not how people go to sleep. That's how they go to sleep permanently. That's not how
this all feels like my last breath.
Yeah. So then I finally fall asleep. You think it's going to be fine. I have no idea what time it is when this happens. I learned later that it was 2:00 in the morning. So right as I'm in that deep REM, part of my that REM, that deep sleep, they barge in the door. It was very dark in the room. All of a sudden, this light comes pouring into the room, and they're like, during your deep sleep, you started mouth breathing, which is one of the reasons I knew that I was having trouble sleeping at home, because during the cold months, my mouth would wake up and I was just completely dried out, very sore throat, like not a
Sure.
droplet of saliva. Like I was going through like 3 bottles of water a night. And like my wife told me I started, this started probably a few years ago with the snoring, but it's been getting progressively worse. So I finally went and got it checked out. La-di-da-da-da. They're like, you started mouth breathing. So I'm already connected and in every possible way. And now they're like, we're going to take this really tight band and we're going to go from the top of your forehead under your chin and strap it to the top to close your mouth. And I'm like, I have already told you that I can't breathe through my nose. And now you're closing the other hole. This isn't going to work. So they
You start breathing through your ears. I mean, what's the next option? Yeah.
My ears aren't big enough. My nostrils aren't big enough. They had already made a joke when they measured my head that my head was so big. And I'm like, yeah, but I have the smallest nostrils in the world. Like, I don't know what I can't breathe. So it's 2:00 in the morning and they strapped me into that thing. And I like instinctively just ripped it off. I left everything else on, but I'm like, I cannot do this. I
Were
can't.
you like asleep when you did it? Like you started falling asleep and you're like, nope.
No. They had me sit up. They put it on, and I immediately took it off. I'm like, nah, this ain't gonna work, bro. Like, no, like you're not doing this to me. Like,
Yeah.
I need to be here, but I also chose to be here. Like, I can't do this. And they're like, well, you have to. I said, no, I don't. And they're like, okay, we'll try again. You're only mouth breathing a little bit during this deep sleep. Like they were like, you were quiet for the first 2.5 hours, the last 10, 15 minutes, you started opening your mouth. And I'm like, that was enough for you to barge in here and ruin this? Like I was fine, you know? And I was like, because I was like, I've been sleeping like this for years. I don't need you to solve a problem of 5 minutes of mouth breathing. I've been mouth breathing for three hours a night for the last 5 years. Leave me alone. So then, okay, so I mentioned earlier that they started me when I was going to sleep. What was the problem with the air?
There wasn't enough of it.
There wasn't enough of it. But as they had gone through the night, they had increased the air and found apparently by the computers what was a good amount for me. And I slept good. I was sleeping great whenever they walked in. And then, but now they're blowing that amount of air into my nose, which is a new sensation for me. Because the only time I quote unquote felt this was when I was asleep. So I'm actively awake for the first time with this air just blowing into my nostrils. And I'm legitimately sleeping like Darth Vader. I am making the hopa sound that Darth Vader makes. And I can't go to sleep with a train coming out of my nose. Like I can't, it's just too loud. I just can't do it. Dude, my mind is spiraling because I'm spiraling of like physically, I can't do this right now. And then I'm like, is this my life now? Like, is this how sleep is going to be every night from now on? But then I'm like, no, probably not, because like I've done things like mouth tape and that took me some time to get used to. Like the first night I couldn't fall asleep. The second night I fell asleep and woke up an hour later and ripped it off and then slept the rest of the night. And then over time I was able to kind of build up to it, right? All my friends that have CPAPs, they said the same thing. They're like, got the CPAP, slept for 2 hours the first night, woke up in the middle of the night, ripped it off, slept without it for the rest of the night. And then the next night, you get progressively better. And they're like, hey, the first time you've ever done this, and we're actually not going to tell you that we're going to do it, we're also going to strap you to 3,700 wires and see how it goes. So it's just the worst thing. And then, dude, I haven't had a mental freak out. Like I was freaking out at 2:30 this morning. And they're like, you just need to go back to bed. And I'm like, I tried multiple times. I kept laying down and it was hope-eyeing in my nose. And then they had the strap, like all these different things. I'm like, I can't do this. And I was like, I have to leave. And they're like, well, if you leave, insurance won't cover it. And the whole thing with my deductible is that this is free. But if I leave, it's about to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I have no idea. So now I'm freaking out even more. So like now it's just like I have no freedom in this situation. Like I'm the person in the book being tortured by somebody else and I can't get away. And this guy folded after months of torture. I'm folding after 3 hours of sleep. Like I'm falling apart. And they're like, look. And then like when I get anxious, one thing that happens with me is my stomach starts going crazy. So then I start having like this needing to burp sensation, which happens a lot when I'm anxious and busy and going crazy. Dude, you can't burp with air being pumped into your nostrils. You have to take it off and burp. Like, so then it's just this whole thing. And like, I feel stupid because these two women are watching me burp. And I feel weak because I can't get through this. And then finally I was like, look, because when I went to sleep, they're like, you have to turn your iPad off. I was like, I need to turn my iPad back on so that I can focus on something else. I need you to put the air back to where we started, and actually a little bit more. I need you to give me more air than what you were giving me when I fell asleep the first time, but way less than what is now. And if I fall asleep again, pump it up however much you want, because I didn't notice while I was sleeping the
Right.
last time. But I cannot fall asleep like this. And um and I was like, I need to turn my iPad on and like play Pokemon for 30 minutes or so. So dude, I'm like flop sweating. I'm like legitimately having a panic attack in the middle of this sleep study. And then I play my Pokemon. They say we do what you ask. You're like, look, you only need 2 more hours and insurance will cover it. So I play my Pokemon for about 30 minutes. I'm finally so freaking tired that I finally put the iPad down and pretty quickly fall asleep. And then I wake up 3 hours later
Nice.
and they're like, hey, you're done. It's all good. And I just walked out and pretended like nothing ever happened. So I was tortured last night, and it's one of the worst things that ever happened to me. And that's the amount of connections that I made to the Passion of the Christ and my hoity-toityness earlier in the day of being like, if I ever get tortured, I'm folding. It's over.
They dipped a hyssop branch in wine, and Jesus
ate the hyssop branch.
Taylor Jesus said, no, tape an iPad to a hyssop branch. And then he was ready. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It was horrendous.
And you'll get more information. Like in a week, they're going to say, okay, this is what you need. And here's your CPAP, and good luck.
Yeah,
or are they going to just message and say, you are our worst client ever, and we hope you never come back?
Yeah. I hope I don't hope I'll never go back. I will never go back. I will never go back. I will never go back. Has anybody heard me yet? I'm never doing that again. And what was so funny was just the escalation from, hey, put this thing on your finger and open this app, to, hey, we're going to torture you. Like, that's such a big jump. It's just such a wild jump where I'm like, guys, you got to tell people this stuff.
It's like a dog. It's like you're trying to get the dog to the vet, and you're like, hey, boy, you want to go for a walk? And you're like, okay, I can do this for sure. And then you show up and you're like, wait, this is a vet. You lied to me. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Where are my boys? Yeah. So it was bad. But here's the thing too, is like, I have been seeing, like, I've tried not to Google too much, because I knew I wasn't going to have answers for a month and a half from when they were like, hey, you have severe sleep apnea. Good luck. I'm like, well, crap. But like, I've seen things that they're like, there are a few options. There's surgeries that can fix the things inside your nasal passageways and your throat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do I want to do that? Or there's the CPAP, which is a very common way. There are also, I've seen commercials for them. There are over-the-counter pills now that say that they're solving this stuff.
Wow.
I'm like, if I can just take a pill, I'll do that. And then the other thing, I was prescribed a year and a half ago GLP-1s, because I gained 50 pounds since COVID. I've lost 25 on my own, but I've kind of stalled out at that, 20, 25 pounds extra. I was prescribed GLP-1s a little over a year ago, and I've been resisting it. But if that means that I can breathe when I sleep, maybe I will. So there are 4 options, and we're all going to find out together. We're all going to find out together which of those options, because there's not a 5th option of trying that again. I'm never doing that again. So It was an interesting kind of like ironic, pun intended, I guess, wake up call of just like, something's got to change, because I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm entering into the suffering of Holy Week. How are you entering into the suffering of Holy Week, Christopher?
Yeah, I think that, I went to the Lenten penance service on Monday, and it was great. And it was a long line. I brought some stuff to do in line, spiritual stuff. And I did so good, because I'm such a type A personality that what I'll do is I'll look around and be like, should I have gotten in that line? That line's moving one person every 30 minutes faster than this line. Oh, I should have gotten in that line. And I just, nope, I'm going to do my spiritual reading. I'm going to say I'm going to be here for an hour and a half, if that's what it takes. And so it was like, really, my type A personality of just like, what's most efficient is best. I was like, no, I'm just going to be present to what God has for me. And if it means he's got an extra half hour in the church for me, then I'm going to spend an extra half hour in the church. And it was great. Um, and then, we're doing a Holy Thursday the best we can. So my daughter has a soccer game at 5:30. Holy Thursday starts, the liturgy starts at 7. And I'm going to,
You shouldn't be paying for soccer, Chris.
Right. So my wife is going to save us seats, and we're going to hopefully get there within the first 30 minutes of the 2-hour liturgy, which I'm just trying to, I'm trying to do what you did with the monk and balance the reality of this call to enter in, while at the same time, like, she's the goalie for the team, and I want her to be able to be there. But we do have a daughter that has a game on Holy Saturday, and we said we're probably not going to make that one. Like, that doesn't make sense. We're going to be out of town for Easter, and so yeah. So just and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what it was about last year's Holy Week, aside from, like, my father dying and being in Rome and all those big things, but I actually really started to appreciate some of the movements of the liturgy, knowing that this movement on Holy Thursday is actually a part of the movement that happened on Palm Sunday, which is also connected to the movement of the church on Good Friday and Holy Saturday. Like, there's just to recognize, like, I know this is a longer liturgy, but it's connected to a bigger narrative, and I need to sit in that narrative. And that's a beautiful thing. So, even if I'm a mouth breather, I'll sit through it. There you go.
It's a funny situation. We have a track meet on Thursday that I'm the head coach of for a Catholic school, and I'm taking my kids to a track meet. We'll probably be out by the time for Holy Thursday, so I too will be joining my family on Holy Thursday after I come home and shower. So, I have an interesting balance. Good Friday is my favorite liturgy of the year. I'm very much looking forward to it. There's also a piece of me that will be working because I work there and making sure everything goes smoothly. But it's once everything's going, I'll be able to go sit with my family, and it's my favorite liturgy of the year. I love the structure of the prayers. I love the veneration of the cross. I love that we don't have to do the liturgy of the Eucharist. It's the same every week. It's already done for us. It's great. Holy Saturday, I am the it's a very strange sentence to say, but I am the godfather for a 65-year-old veteran. I'm so excited to be the dad of a guy twice my age. He's coming to the church. His wife is receiving all the sacraments. His wife is, I'm going to be her sponsor at confirmation about 6 weeks later. So they're a very sweet couple. I've been walking with them for their sacramental journey.
So you're telling me that your children are going to be married to each other?
My children are married to each other, and I'm the father of people who could be my parents. Yes. Catholic Church is very, very weird.
Catholic math. Yes.
Just like from many, many years ago, I am the godchild to a child. My mom is the godchild to that child's sibling. I'm like, what does that make me to my mother? Am I her god husband? I don't know what's going on. So,
right.
Very, very confusing. The Catholic Church loves to make things confusing. But there's an interesting reflection. I'm going to give her credit to Mary Martha, who is the youth minister at our parish. We were talking at lunch today. We had our final team meeting before Holy Week of like, Holy Week, go, because we work there and we're all very busy this week. And we were talking, I asked her the same question that I asked Catherine Whitaker on our Holy Week episode right here a year ago, to rank your favorite of the 4 days of the Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Sunday. And it was really interesting because my experience as not working for the church in a very long time, and even when I did, the youth ministers don't really do much historically.
Right.
I didn't do much historically on Holy Week. It was all the adults. But for Holy Week, we're kind of an all hands on deck parish. We're all here to support Father in the community and all that sort of thing, right? Well, she was saying it was really interesting because Holy Saturday, Good Friday is my favorite day of the year. My favorite liturgy of the year. I said on the last episode, my favorite day of the year is the penance service. My favorite liturgy of the year is Good Friday. I love it so much. I haven't been to Holy Saturday. I haven't been to Easter Vigil since I was in grad school, because during grad school, we had a kid. And ever since I had kids, we don't go to the Easter Vigil.
It's hard.
It's just
hard.
Not conducive with little kids. But we're bringing them for the first time this year because my youngest.
We are too. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Like the youngest is older now. Like, so it's okay, right? And we're gonna.
How old's your youngest?
8 or 9. I had this argument with Jennifer Stavanoa the other day. I'm not sure.
Okay, we have our youngest is 7, and I'm kind of secretly hoping, kind of when they're doing the Old Testament readings and the lights are out, that maybe she'll fall asleep
Sure.
and we could just let her write it out that way. Yeah, but we're excited. That's neat.
She can wake up 3 hours later to 2 women barging into her room and shoving something in her nose.
Just like daddy. Just like daddy.
But I'm going there as a participant. Like I have essentially said I'm not working that night, so I can be present there to be the godfather to this man. And then Sunday I'm going to work. But Mary Martha had this interesting thing, because I think Holy Saturday is the saddest day of the year, because I think it is all hope is lost. Like Friday, the disciples experienced the death of Jesus. Saturday, they're starting to go back to their old lives. Like it's over. Like everything that I've put into my life, it's just over. It's all these. They start the walking to Emmaus is the next day. Like they're like planning their walk to Emmaus. Like they're leaving. It's over. Like
where's my tackle box? I'm gonna go back to fishing.
Yeah, that thing that I was really bad at, and it's just so little hope that day. So like. And we've been an Easter people for a long time, not an Easter Vigil people, that like the joy comes Sunday morning. But she was saying last year was her first year essentially being at work almost all day, Holy Saturday, because there's like for all the people being baptized and brought into the church Saturday night, there's a rehearsal Saturday morning. We're setting up for them. We're feeding them lunch. And then the musicians are practicing and the altar servers are being trained and all like for the special mass and all this stuff is happening. And she was just like, oh, and her main job, she's like, she's the person that was in charge of hiding all the statues. And now she's the person Saturday morning that she's leading a team to unveil all the statues. And she's just like, there's so much work in anticipation and hopeful expectation that Jesus is coming again. And it just like completely flipped like Holy Saturday, because the day essentially in my mind has always sucked. And then Easter Vigil is the big party or whatever, right? But it was just so much like hopeful expectation that like, hey, we're doing this knowing that he's rising, and just how beautiful that is for like not just applying that to Easter Saturday, but to like literally every day of the year, like living our lives and planning and working and hoping and expecting and literally preparing for him to come back. And I was like, that's beautiful. Mary Martha wins the podcast today.
Yes, absolutely.
We're closing with her. So, I have to go to track practice. That's the reality of today. That is Chris Bartlett. I am Taylor Schroll. We'll be back whenever we darn feel like it. See ya!
See ya!